BMW is no stranger to designing and engineering fun and engaging vehicles, a history shrouded in performance that has stretched decades, from iconic cars like the BMW M3 and M5 to the M2 and Z4, has solidified BMW's place in the automotive world. In 2020, that same DNA has made its way to the crossovers in the lineup, as the X5 and X6 were the first to receive M badges over a decade ago. And now here we are with the X3 receiving the same treatment. Today, we take a look at the BMW X3 M40i and highlight the top 5 reasons why this mid-size crossover should be the newest addition to your garage. One of the biggest factors that play a role in the buying process for consumers in the crossover segment is size. This goes beyond rear cargo space, as leg, shoulder, and headroom have to be considered, especially if you have a family. This discussion is the very basis as to why many choose a crossover rather than a sedan, but it also determines whether you buy a BMW X2 or X5 instead of the X3. After looking at all three this year, the X3 is without question the perfect size, not only when it comes to the perception you have while driving, but it's the perfect size for a family of 4. While driving, it doesn't feel as big as it looks, despite the fact that you have a good amount of shoulder room when sitting next to the front passenger. For the passengers in the back, they'll have plenty of legroom, but because the X3 M40i has a traditional crossover roofline, headroom is abundant even with the panoramic moonroof. This leads us to number 4, as the X3 M40i's all-around practicality makes it one of our favorites in the BMW crossover lineup. For rear cargo room, you have 28.7 cubic feet of space behind the rear seats. And with those seats folded down, that room doubles in size to 62.7 cubic feet, making this crossover perfect for someone constantly on the go. However, it doesn't stop there. When you think of a BMW with an M badge, the first few words that probably come to mind is gas guzzler. But in fact, the X3 M40i surprisingly receives a more than acceptable fuel economy at 21 miles per gallon in the city and 27 miles per gallon on the highway. In some cases, that's almost on par with some non-performance crossovers on the market. So cringing at the pump should be held to a minimum, considering what the X3 M40i offers. The rivalry between BMW, Audi, and Mercedes-Benz has led us to a point where you don't necessarily need an X3M to have a fun and powerful crossover. From a pricing standpoint, you're looking at a $14,000 difference when comparing an X3 M40i to an X3M. But even when you take a look at the engine under the hood and the performance you receive, it appears that the wiser choice would be to go with the more affordable option. For 2020, you get 382 horsepower and 365 pound-feet of torque, with a 0 to 60 time of right around 4.4 seconds. Putting that into perspective, you're faster than most sedans on the road, but also you're looking at 0.3 of a second difference compared to the X3M's 4.10 to 60 acceleration. Then add fuel consumption into the equation, and the X3 M40i really becomes the more logical and smarter choice, especially if this crossover is going to be your daily driver. The criticism crossovers receive primarily focuses on the lack of engagement behind the wheel, poor handling, and average braking. Up until very recently, even considering buying a crossover was almost unthinkable for a car enthusiast. But the X3 M40i offers the same enjoyment behind the wheel as the sports sedans in the BMW lineup. Straight-line speed and power isn't enough in today's automotive world, as Americans are beginning to embrace a European driving style. And with the stiffer suspension and M Sport brakes, the X3 M40i becomes quite the backroad beast, as once you step inside, you're immediately greeted by an exhilarating driving experience. Tight steering that differs from the more relaxed characteristics of non-M models for BMW is why the standard X3 won't provide enough feedback for someone who wants to feel connected to the road. While agility might not be on par with a two-door coupe, it should be noted that you forget you're even driving a crossover, especially on a spirited drive on back roads in the countryside. Then of course, braking has to play a role as well, and the M Sport brakes make a huge difference, as they're significantly more responsive than the standard brakes you receive on the X3. Together, the handling and braking ability makes the X3 M40i a blast to cruise in, and could certainly take the place of your sports sedan if you're upgrading to a bigger vehicle. And finally, at number 1 is the BMW X3 M40i being a jack of all trades, to a point where this crossover has very few weak spots. Its size, practicality, and performance balances out so well, and it's very difficult to justify paying more for an X3M to receive a slightly better acceleration time. If you're on the fence on whether to upgrade to an X5 M50i, just take into account that if you don't have a family, you're really paying extra for just a bigger vehicle and of course the X5 badge. As a consumer, I think you can always look at spec sheets and debate for hours over whether there's something better on the market. But at a price range of around $60,000, you're not going to find many rivals who can match the value for the price that the X3 M40i provides. Within the context of solely looking at the BMW's crossover lineup, the X3 M40i is as close to perfection from a holistic standpoint that you're going to get from the German manufacturer. Which is why, if you're going to lead the sedan market for good and need something more versatile, the X3 M40i is one of the best options you have on the market in 2020. We hope you enjoyed this quick buyer's guide for the BMW X3 M40i. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more videos like this one. And if you're interested in the BMW X3 M40i or other BMW models, make sure to check out our full reviews to help you find your next vehicle. And thanks for watching.